everyone, and welcome to the latest Lawshare Q&A. I'm delighted to be joined by our new partner in our clinical negligence team, Sara Stanger. Sara, hi, how are you?
Yes, I'm great, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you very much for joining me. Sara joins us with a fantastic reputation and background in catastrophic personal injury work, very complex clinical negligence work, but also in public inquiries work as well, which is what we're going to touch upon today. So I suppose really the starting point is, could you expand a little on what a public inquiry is and, what it entails, please?
Yeah, of course. A public inquiry is a formal investigation ordered by the government. It's a process that's usually led by a senior judge or a senior legal person. So unlike an internal review or an inquest, it is a wider investigation. The purpose is to restore public trust in an area like what happened in the Countess of Chester in relation to Lucy Leppy. So it's to investigate and understand what's happened. It's not to create blame, but it can, which is very important to the families and injured people involved, create accountability and change.
And you've been involved in various inquiries. Could you let us know which ones you have been and what your role specifically has been in those, please?
A recent inquiry that I've been involved in was the Thirlwall inquiry, led by Lady Justice Thirlwall. That inquiry was to investigate what went on at the Countess of Chester in relation to Lucy Leppy and those babies that were murdered. So the purpose of that was, it was a three-pronged terms of reference. So the terms of reference is the document created that an inquiry is led by. So it's the blueprint really for how an inquiry will proceed. So the Thirlwall inquiry was to investigate the experiences of the family, which was part A. Part B was to understand what went on in relation to the reporting of concerns within the management and with the clinicians. And part C was to understand more broadly in relation to how it impacts the wider NHS.
And what were those findings as a result of that?
The findings have not been published yet.
I see.
And Lady Thirlwall will hopefully produce her findings this autumn.
I see. And I guess it's the findings of such inquiries that then do they drive change and they're reflected upon presumably, and that is possibly how you win over the sort of public trust where there's been perhaps a vacuum in that regard.
Yes, I think public inquiries are incredibly necessary to restore public trust when something like the failings in Mid Staffordshire happened, and we need to understand not only an individual failing but the systemic failings in the wider and broader NHS. So I think that the hope is with these findings that there can be widespread change, in relation to culture in the NHS, training, whistleblowing. There are so many areas that the findings within the Thirlwall inquiry will be able to reach.
Yeah, so the impact can be incredibly far-reaching.
Yes,
yeah.
And I think that's why when families have been devastated by, something like the crimes of Lucy Leppy, that they want to remain involved. I can't imagine the burden it is to still want to be involved in a process like a public inquiry, but the families that I've been involved with are incredibly passionate about change,
Yeah.
about being part of change, being part of a legacy of change for what's happened to their children.
So if something positive could come out of such tragic events, then that change would be it.
So they want to remain involved, they want to be part of that process, they want to understand what's happened at a more granular level.
Yeah, of course.
And the public inquiry allowed them to do that. The public inquiry gets to the bottom of what's happened with hundreds of thousands of pages of disclosure, witness statements, expert evidence. You know, the experts that were involved in the Thirlwall inquiry were incredibly knowledgeable, barristers, professors within the NHS, professors at Cambridge University, people who can look at it both at a granular level but on a wide scale as well, to look at how this inquiry can bring about change and suggest recommendations to help the chair and in the Thirlwall inquiry, Lady Justice Thirlwall, to help her to bring about change.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thanks ever so much, Sara. It's really fascinating stuff and really sensitive topics, and obviously you have a very empathetic nature, and I'm sure that's enabled you to be able to be involved in such a fashion. So thank you very much for speaking to me about this.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks very much, and do keep an eye out for the latest Lawshare Q&A. We'll be putting them out on our socials and also on the website too. Thanks.